So for the rest of the week, the developer is going to work on developing this feature. Now, theoretically, in good practice, the developer should also be helping you to test that feature because, as you guys will see, most of the time in the real world, developers produce too much code and the tester cannot test in time. And if there's too much code and you have a time box delivery, meaning you need to deliver by the end of the day on Friday, you have two choices. You can test less and approve that feature to go to production, or you can have the developers help you test so that the feature makes it to production on time and is fully tested. And if it's a good quality developer who likes his job and likes to be a team player, they're going to help you test. But that's in theory. For now, let's discuss what's going to happen for an automation engineer. So, while the developer is developing this feature, you're going to be working on your test cases. First, you will probably do your test cases manually. You'll probably walk through the functionality, try to understand things, and create some test cases. For most features, there are multiple test cases. I have yet to develop a feature that has only one test case for the entire sprint. That would be a very tiny feature, but it's possible that you may be starting out there. So usually the sprint begins with the automation engineer meeting with the developers, understanding the functionality that the developers are going to code, trying to find all the weak points, and then sitting down at their desk and trying to figure out all of the test cases that are going to be developed for the sprint. And those test cases, they're going to be like a checklist that the entire team is going to use for the code to be considered production ready. I believe that it is good practice for the tester to afterwards come to the developers and speak with them to ask them whether the test cases that the automation engineer developed are good enough and whether they cover everything. Now, I'm going to be honest. As much as I love the testers and as much as I'm proud to be a QA, the developers do know their code much better than I do. No matter how good of a tester I think I am, I know and I'm certain that the developers understand their code better than I do. Therefore, I always seek their advice. I try my best to develop test cases. A lot of times I even come up with test cases that they can't come up with. But they always help me out and let me know whether some test cases that I create are stupid or whether some test cases that I create are great. Either way, their knowledge is invaluable to me, and I always come to speak to them regarding what they think of my test cases. And it creates a great team dynamic where the developers know what the automation engineer is working on, and the testers have the approval of the developer to proceed. So, let's say that you spoke with the developer, you understand your test cases, and for the sake of argument, let's say you guys came up with one test case that's good to test this feature. That's probably not the case, but this is just for your understanding, just to explain this cycle. One test case is what we decided upon. So, you're going to start working on that test case. And maybe for your very first test case, without a framework set up, it's going to take you at least a day for the most simple one. That is okay. Take a day, take 2 days to develop your very first test case. Make it amazing. Make it so stable that you never get a false positive. That is the most important thing to do. You're going to work on that test case, and maybe, let's say by the end of Tuesday, you're going to add it to your regression suite.